When you're young, everyone has a list of things they want to achieve by the time they're 30. Have a successful career, buy a house, make a fuck ton of money, get married, get a fancy car, travel the world, all that shit. But my checklist had just one thing. How am I going to get the next bottle of liquor? For example, one time I got a drunken disorderly ticket for being wasted in public, and I was so nervous to go to court that I drank a whole bottle of 100 proof schnapps beforehand. Showed up in court super wasted and could have gone to jail then for the exact same thing that I was in court for. I did not care about a job. I did not care about my future. Hell, I didn't even go to the dentist for years. My life was defined by two things back then: alcohol and drugs. If you put a powder in front of me, it went up my nose, no questions asked. I've lost countless friends from drug overdoses, and back then I was so deep in this shit that nothing could have stopped me. And the thing is, when you're stuck in this hellhole, in these pits of addiction, you're not thinking about your future at all. Alcohol is not a solution to anxiety. Alcohol and drugs were my coping mechanism. I thought for the longest time that alcohol was an anxiety cure. And from a very young age, alcohol taught me that I could run away and escape my feelings. Now, the thing with alcohol is that when you're using it to treat anxiety or depression, it can work very well as long as you're always drunk, basically, because the second you sober up, or the second you stop using drugs, you feel like you're gonna die and you have no way to deal with reality sober. And so you just keep this cyclical, toxic cycle going because you don't know anything else. Whenever I felt anxiety socially or around anything else, I just numbed it instantly with alcohol. Most of the time I wasn't even sober enough for more than an hour in the morning before I started drinking, so I didn't even give myself time to be anxious about anything. And once you train yourself to live like that for enough years, opportunities don't just slip away. So does your health, so does relationships, and so does family even. It's normal. Normal people feel anxiety and nervousness, and they learn ways to cope with it and grow and turn it into a positive. In my late teens, when I was 17, 18, all the way through my early 20s, my routine was fucking crazy. It was like something out of Motley Crue, and I was young and my body just got used to it. On average, I would drink like 2/5 of liquor per day. I ate like shit. I didn't even care about eating, to be honest with you. I partied till 4 or 5 in the morning. In the worst part of it all, I sometimes would keep a glass of liquor if I managed to have any left before I passed out, right next to where I slept, which was on a mattress on a floor. And I would wake up and I would drink that right away. And then I would go to work and pound some Coke up my face just to be able to stand up straight. And that was if I was lucky enough to actually show up for work. Most of the times I would just say fuck it and not go and decide I want to get shit-faced all day. So, lost lots of jobs, burned lots of bridges. And if you're in your 30s watching this and this stuff all sounds familiar, eventually your body is gonna have enough of this shit and it's just not gonna tolerate it anymore, and you're gonna start getting really fucked up health shit going on. Your body just can't handle it as you get older. And for me, a decade of extremely hard partying could not just be undone overnight. Just because one day I decided it was time to quit, I was physically withdrawing multiple times. When I tried to stop using it, I would get super sick, start shaking, sweating, and ultimately seizuring and hallucinating. And I actually had to be admitted to a hospital to go through hospital-induced withdrawal so they could give me Ativan for my body freaking the fuck out. It took 2 years of being sober to get my motor coordination back. I had to relearn how to skateboard because I was so used to being intoxicated and fucked up that my balance had gotten used to being intoxicated and fucked up. Alcohol is a toxin. That's why they call it intoxicated. It's not supposed to be there. So when you pump your body full of liquor like I did for so many years straight, my face was like a balloon. Next thing, you do not just get better overnight, unfortunately. After relapsing probably 4 or 5 times, I was finally able to make it stick And I thought that once I quit drinking, all the pieces would just fall in place, and that was not the case. I was awake, I was sober, but my brain still felt like it was under the influence. It was foggy, I couldn't think. It took a long time for that kind of haze to wear off because I drank from 13 to 22, almost 23, incessantly. Because in the last 5 years of my super heavy addiction, I was probably only sober 10 days total, not including when I was trying to actively get sober and relapsing. So you can imagine how used to my body was to functioning under the influence all the time. And honestly, like in those first 2 years of sobriety, I look back and I'm like, what the fuck was I doing? Even then, I made a lot of really poor decisions in those early days of sobriety because I was just like not mentally sober. I had started using when I was 13, so very young, not mature at all when I got sober. And so there was a lot of learning and personal growth that had to happen. For example, I wasn't drinking, but I was still going to the same electronic shows. I was going to jam bands, and I was still hanging around a lot of my old friends here and there. I had mostly cut them out, but there was a few core friends that I would still go and meet up with every now and again because I did remove myself from Vail, which is where the worst of my addiction was in Colorado. And I attribute some of my early relapses to still going and putting myself in those situations, even after I had moved down to Boulder. I knew people here that partied, obviously, and I would go hang out with them and ultimately end up getting super wasted and smoking DMT and blowing coke all night. So it does not work. You have to change your environment and who you hang out with and make new friends. But this time, when I made it stick and got 2 years, that's when my head really started to clear and my life started to prioritize things, and I started to mature a lot more mentally and emotionally too. I had the emotional maturity of probably like a 17-year-old at the time, so had a lot of work to do. So if you quit using drugs or alcohol and you go through a time period where you still feel lost, that is completely normal. You have to realize the shock that your body is going through after what it's been put through by you over so many years, and it really does take time. And that like haze and fog and kind of just going through the motions phase, it will eventually lift depending on how fucked up you were and how deep you were into addiction. So the fourth point I want to make is that your social life will shrink. That's by design. You have to do that. Let it happen. I had a huge circle of friends that I hung out with in Vail and Boulder and wherever else in Colorado, and I could not imagine life without those people. And what I found out is we didn't really have true deep friendship. We had a shared hobby of drugs and booze and partying and getting fucked up. And that became apparent when I finally decided to quit. That huge circle of friends shrunk into about two people. Two people. And those are the two people that I still talk to occasionally today. One of them is a very, very dear friend of mine. And I also realized that I did not know how to hang out with people and socialize and have a conversation without having copious amounts of booze in my system. And here's the part that hits you in your late 20s and early 30s. When you're in addiction, you'll try and keep a lot of people around because you feel like you've known them forever and they're loyal to you. And the truth is that they only really like that part of you that is so trapped in addiction, because if they're going through the same thing, that forces them to also grow. If you're making changes, you're not doing the same things anymore that you've done for years, you're trying to better your life, it puts pressure on them to be accountable and maybe change their life, because you're not going to hang out with them otherwise. And a lot of people are not ready for that. They're attached to the version of you that's destroying yourself. And so when I lost 95% of who I thought was my really close friends, it was really scary, but I just stuck with it. And over time, I realized that that is part of the process that has to happen in order for you to move on and get better as a person and not cling to addiction. And I realized that I needed a close group of people that I could have real conversations with and real hobbies and real relationships without alcohol. Lesson 5 of this is Someday never comes. The thing about your 20s is you feel immortal. You think that I can do this forever like this, and it's okay because I can do it now and everything is going okay. Well, for me, it was not. I was not a functioning alcoholic whatsoever. I was a fucking shit show. But that aside, your body in your 20s is much different than now for me in my 30s. And you feel immortal when you're in your 20s, like you're unbreakable. I'll just quit later was what I said for years as my addiction became inescapable. The dependence was not only psychological, it was also physical, what I mentioned earlier about withdrawals. But when you finally get to your 30s, if you haven't made the choice to stop yet, you have built such a big dependency on alcohol, you don't know how to live your life and do basic, simple human day-to-day things without alcohol, whether you realize it or not. And I think our culture too contributes to that. Bar culture, like having to go out and have a social lubricant, it's very toxic to have that kind of narrative as a society. So if you're thinking that you're still gonna quit on Monday, stop fooling yourself. Nothing in life happens on its own. You have to put in the work, you have to make a commitment, otherwise nothing's gonna change. It took me years to get my life back together, and the longer you delay that first step of making a change for the better in your life, the longer it's gonna take to undo that. And I'm not saying this out of like shame or fear tactics or anything. It's more of a warning to not be complacent to your addiction and actually decide that you want better for your life. And I think that stems from a larger belief of mine that treatment centers and those sorts of things don't really work, in my opinion, because the person has to be ready. Just them. Like if you're forced into sobriety, very, very rarely does it work. And so I just believe that it will never work until you decide that it's going to work. And that's the strongest way. And once you make that choice, sure, you can go to a treatment center or therapy if you'd like to, but it starts within. So accountability is very important. You need to actually start taking the steps to better your life if you don't want to live addicted your entire life and coping with reality. And you have to step up. You have to do the hard things. You have to fight for it. And I will tell you, you will get through it eventually. Just keep going. Whether that's AA, whether that's communities that you can join, whether it's therapy in AA. There's so many ways to sobriety. There's not a silver bullet. You just have to start trying stuff and figure out what works best for you. All right, part 6. Finances or lack thereof. When you're in the pits of addiction like I was and did not care about a single other thing other than booze, you lose a lot of financial whereabouts. I just had a very irresponsible look on money. I never went to work so I could save money. I went to work so I could afford drugs and alcohol. It was a means to an end. And I developed a really strong work ethic early on in my life. I started working when I was 14 and always worked from then on. And I started paying my own bills right after high school. But as I got into addiction, the means to an end thing, it gave me a very unhealthy look on alcohol. I didn't really see money as future opportunity or investing in my future. I quantified it by how much liquor I could get. So if I was 18 and got a $200 paycheck, I would literally start adding up, okay, I can get 10 half gallons of liquor with that. And that's how my brain thought. It was like disposable. I would just churn it right through. How many bottles of booze? How many grams of Coke? And so when I finally got sober and had to deal with money and a career and that kind of thing, I still have this very tainted outlook on money where fuck it, I don't really care. I'll just buy this, I'll buy that. It's just money because I can just get more, right? And so a lot of that financial irresponsibility came from addiction. I'm still like a teenager with money, honestly. I go for the dopamine instead of the logical thing, which is kind of dangerous because full transparency, I make a good living nowadays and I do a lot of semi-irresponsible things. I would say more along the lines of risk, like building startups, I don't really take time to think about numbers and my balance sheet and my profit and loss statement. For instance, I'm building a new app for addiction recovery, actually, and I get the quote and I just say, all right, let's do it, and just start funding it immediately because I want the app to be done. I don't logically think about it. I just think, okay, I'll just go get more cash. I'll go sell harder. I'll work harder. I'll make more because I'm addicted to work. And to be honest with you, one of the first people I hired in my businesses was a bookkeeper because I hate looking at numbers. I just cannot stand numbers and math. And so that helps me be even more detached from money in a bad way. But at least now I have someone really good that's very responsible with my cash and can tell me, dude, chill the fuck out. You're not being smart. So just know, you're not perfect. You're never gonna be. It's okay. You've got to be easy on yourself about some of this stuff and just try to learn and improve yourself and get better. And that's my biggest goal for 2026 this year, is to just be more financially smart and plan. Now that we have a family, I cannot be a fucking idiot, basically. So need to buckle down, and that's one of my biggest improvements for the year. And it's okay to admit that you suck at things. So you can't reclaim a decade of your life, but you can turn that into a positive. As you can see, I still have a lot to learn. I'm trying to grow every single day. There's so much to work on, so much to improve, especially emotionally still. And that's okay. That's life. That's what you're supposed to be doing. Even when you're 50 and 60, you're supposed to just try and be a better person constantly. It's hard. It's fucking hard. So if you think everything's gonna magically change when you get sober, it doesn't. You have to face the blues. You have to put in the work. You have to give it time. You have to keep fighting for it, even when you might not see it change right away. It does come. It could be after 2 months. It could be after 2 years, like it was for me. You never know. You have to just trust the process and have the right people around you and just commit and channel your addiction into something positive. And that's the point I want to make in this video. No one can give you a decade or 2 decades or even 3 decades of your life back, but you're never too late to have a better life. I went from being homeless, hitchhiking everywhere, overdoses all the time, almost dying multiple times, to owning 3 successful businesses within a decade. I've been sober for almost 12 years now. I've been with my partner for 11 of those 12 years, and we are married now. We have a beautiful family together, and so many things have happened in those 12 years of sobriety. It's absolutely nuts how much my life has improved. I would have never expected my life to improve this much or to be where I'm at right now. And to be a dad, I'm not a perfect dad, but I show up for my kids and I'm there, and it's super important to me, and I can be the earner for my family, and people can actually depend on me. They could not do that when I was an addict. I was the biggest fucking idiot ever, and you could not depend on me for shit. But secondarily to not being able to get that decade back, the biggest point probably for me is that I have 0 regrets about any of that. Any of those years of my life that I was super addicted, because it's made me into who I am today. I've been skateboarding for 30 years, and I was an addict, and that's just part of my story, and that makes me not as fucking boring, I guess. I've seen absolutely insane shit in my life, and I can take those experiences and channel them into ideas or lessons or whatever I can do to help other people. Those are not regrets. It's who I am. You can do this. You just got to start today and continue tomorrow.